you are probably sick of the corruption in our representative democracies. And if so, we're not alone. Elon Musk thinks
direct democracy is better than representative democracy, and so if you're trying to represent the will of the people, it would be better to have direct votes, which were not possible in the old days because you had to mail things around and the information moved very slowly. But in an electronic society where information moves instantly, you can represent very directly the will of the people. And I think this diminishes the ability of special interests to influence things in a way that is contrary to the will of the people.
We in 5-star direct democracy know that he's right. Did you know that Switzerland has used direct democracy at national level since 1848? They now have an annual average salary nearly 3 times that of the UK, and their national debt is nearly half the level of ours. In Switzerland, politicians have to answer regularly to their voters. The electorate have the ability to call for referenda on every law the politicians promulgate. If it wasn't already obvious, maybe now you can see why our politicians don't want to talk about direct democracy. The Swiss voters control elected officials all the time, not just voting them in once every 5 years. Now think about that. What employee gets 5 years without being assessed by the boss? What makes our MPs so special? Why shouldn't they be held to account regularly by their voters? I'll tell you why. Our corrupt system of representative democracy works the way it does because it has deliberately been developed to work like this. In fact, it works perfectly as far as the political class and their lobbyist, corporate and super rich chums are concerned. The MPs and their crony backers absolutely ensure that to the victor go the spoils, with well-heeled special interests having access that regular voters can only dream of. We've had this truly unrepresentative system for hundreds of years. Maybe now it's time we had a proper democracy. We in 5-star think that there is a better way to do democracy. We want a people's parliament, one in which the full electorate can regularly have their say about policies they suffer under and are affected by. We have a plan to ensure that our politicians have to routinely listen to us, and we have designed a system in which they get feedback on individual draft bills and motions before any vote takes place, from local councillor level to members of parliament. The system is very straightforward and is explained in this diagram produced by one of 5-star's local councillors. You simply log on to the party representative site in whose area you're on the electoral roll. You then vote yes or no on upcoming motions. It's as simple as that. When over 10% of the electorate vote on the issue, our representative votes in accordance with the electorate's wishes. Our local party official also acts as shadow MP to the actual MP, giving voters the chance to vote on upcoming bills in Westminster. This system allows voters to make known their will to the MP through our parallel parliament, or People's Parliament. The system applies pressure to the MP, requiring him to listen to his electorate and follow their wishes, or else be exposed as an incontrovertible enemy of democracy and go. The UK has had MPs for hundreds of years now, but they have never really represented us. They have to toe the line of the party whips, so in reality, they're just party serfs, not our servants. Now is the time for a people's parliament, not a clique's parliament. It is time for democracy to move on, to keep up with the people. We need an evolution, a tweaking of the system to allow closer control of policies by the voters. At one time, only the king's will counted. Then it was the barons also. After a few hundred years, some property owners joined them. Later, working men got the vote, and eventually, lo and behold, women. So democracy has always evolved, but once vested interests identified its immeasurable potential for exploitation, the evolution was deliberately stopped, and we continue to be stuck with a system that was only fit for purpose back in the day when information had to be written on paper and sent back and forth by post. So now it has to change. Now that we all have the vote, this means we must be heard more often, and the lobbyists from the left and right must be shown the door. Representative democracy has been around for over 250 years, and now is the time for a great evolution, a kind of counter-revolution that wrests the usurped powers away from those in privileged positions that have hijacked our democracy and returns it to the people where it belongs. There is no point voting if the result of that vote is only ever to elect one of 2 near-identical oligarchies in which all the decisions are made by a handful of wealthy, well-connected people who know very well how to protect their privileges, suppress any competition, and stay on top. We therefore need a direct democracy. Our party believes in the people and their innate decency and common sense, in national sovereignty, in a modernised, simplified, codified Bill of Rights that will always guarantee our freedom of speech and liberty of conscience. We believe in innovation, entrepreneurialism, fair employment laws, and the necessity to protect and defend those least able to safeguard themselves. We must never forget that our vote was earned through sacrifice. Remember that when the First World War began, 40% of the men in this country didn't have the vote, and no women did. After 4 years of combat, nearly 1 million men had died, millions more had been wounded, and women had filled the munitions factories. In recognition of their sacrifices, the property restrictions were lifted. The women driving the ambulances, my own grandmother included, had helped their sisters gain the vote for the first time. The working men who had hauled their wounded officers and soldiers out of no man's land to safety had earned the vote for all men over 21. Every incremental gain in our nation's quest for better democracy has only ever come about because patriots were willing to fight. Our country is not heading in the right direction right now. The powerful supranationalist globalists that seek to exploit the United Kingdom to increase their gains don't care about our values, our history, or our future. They care only for money, power, and control. And we need to stand up to these globalists starting today. So I want you to remember the sacrifices our grandparents made for democracy, for the freedom to determine our own destiny. It is high time that we had control of our MPs and not the party whips and donors. Our current crony democracy is not fit for purpose. It has had its day. Direct democracy recognises the capabilities of the electorate and it puts you in the driver's seat. So join us in 5-star direct democracy and take control. We have our destiny to shape.